Time now approaching 11 p.m. and a pleasant Sunday evening to you. I don't know if I'd really want to call it pleasant, what we witnessed earlier. The Radio HIPP program was never intended to be of political nature, but I think as an American, it is my responsibility to speak my mind whenever I feel like it needs to be spoken. And of course, you guys already know exactly what we're going to be talking about. The Democrats were able to push that bill through in healthcare just about an hour ago, I believe, and it did pass. I had no doubt I had no doubt that the thing would go through. You know, I knew right away this was going to happen, and the reality of it, the reality of seeing it live, brought something to me, Dan, that I have never experienced before. This is my colleague Dan. He's sitting in. We're going to give our response. There's probably going to be a lot of uhs and buzz and bluttering, but you know what? We're not official radio personalities, but we're going to tell it how it is because you know what? The American people need to tell it how it is. Am I right?
True. I've never been a colleague before.
Well, welcome, a new colleague of the Radio HIPP show. Basically, we're going to give our response, like I said, on this healthcare bill that passed. I keep saying health kill all day because I think that's a prophetic thing about what should have happened but didn't happen. So maybe I was just lied to, but you know, this should have been killed. I'm a small business owner in the community that I live in, and basically, what's going to happen is the government is now imposing. They're basically saying you've got to get health care coverage. From what I understand, I've read the bill, I've heard about it from both sides, the left and the right. I'm not taking any bias. I am a conservative, but I'm not going to speak on on that type. I will say this: if you're a liberal right now, we're going to say some things that you're probably not going to like. If I offend you, that's just too bad because I'm speaking from what I believe, and what we witnessed tonight was a destruction of our Constitution. Dan, what are your comments on what you saw tonight? I mean, you've been around for a while. What do you think?
Let me take a deep breath. I don't even know where to start because, first and foremost, before my political affiliation, I'm an American, and I think that we should uphold the Constitution. And if you don't believe that, then you're an enemy of the state. I mean, you have the freedom to believe whatever you want to believe, but it is that document that gives you the right to speak out against that document. It's a strange relationship, but I think what they did tonight was against the Constitution. I think this bill is against the Constitution. Forcing people to purchase something is completely ridiculous. And like you said before, someone compared it to auto insurance, and driving is an option. And so it's completely ridiculous. So many things happen tonight, and it
almost takes your breath away. You can't even describe it. Almost is what it is. It's
the implications for the individual. I think basically are the government's going to put a cap. They're going to decide when you quit pursuing some medical attention of whatever it is. So if your child gets sick, then there's a point at which they decide where that threshold is, beyond which you cannot pursue medical treatment because they decide it's not cost effective, and that's ridiculous.
I'll tell you, as a young American, as a 26-year-old young American, blessed beyond belief to be in the United States of America. I am a dedicated American. I will say, for people of my generation, people that weren't around when Social Security was passed through and things, with all due respect, the events that happened in September 11th were tragic, very tragic. And I'm not undermining those events. I'm not undermining any wars. I'm not taking away anything from any of that. But Dan, I believe what we witnessed tonight, what we saw tonight, what happened in that house tonight was one of the worst acts of government that I have ever seen in my short 26 years of living. It was one of the most tragic events that I have seen that have ever came through in the United States government.
I agree. And then leading up to this, we've seen it's been a tragedy because what you've witnessed is absolute corruption. What's the word? Vitiation of American principles that are defined by the Constitution. And Nancy Pelosi, her underhanded, conniving,
she-devilish. She's a she-devil. She's a she-devil.
All this conniving, it's sad. It's very un-American. It's very anti-American. And these people are in control right now. And what do? I mean, you just sit back and you watch
It's almost like people when they get in
I'm
that
powerless and speechless. I'm a typical American,
Yeah.
and I'm powerless and speechless right now as one person. It seems like.
Well, it's almost like they feed off of that, that aurora of their name being called or people listening to them. There's a lot of people that are on sites like YouTube, sites like YouTube, Twitter. People get on those because they want to be heard. YouTube was the medium for people to be heard. And that's not why I'm here talking. I'm not here because I want my name to get out. I'm here because I want to try to educate with the limited knowledge I have about things as far as this goes. I have enough common sense to know that what happened tonight was not American. And I'm not on here right now. I'm not looking at you guys right now face to face. Of course, it's through webcam, but I'm not looking at you to try to get my face recognized. That's not it at all. I'm trying to get the education out that what you saw tonight was horrible. And what's really bothered me is I've got several a little over 1,000 people now on my Facebook, and I've seen some comments come by. I've seen a lot of great common sense comments come by. But then I've seen those uneducated comments that come by. The ones that just you would not like. I saw one earlier. Someone says, "Why talk about all this healthcare? I'm going to get something to eat." The people that, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. If that was you, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm trying to educate you. What you saw tonight was the most historical thing that you have seen yet up until your life. If you're under 30, that's the most historical thing with the government I believe you've seen. Legislation-wise, that you're right. You don't realize the implications this is going to have on you, on your kids. We're now being forced into something that we didn't ask for. We did not ask for this, Dan. And I'm going to say it bluntly, what is pissing me off is this country has turned. And my grandfather told me he served in World War II. My grandfather was an awesome, proud American. He loved his country. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2000, but just loved him. Probably the most prominent male figure in my life. And what happened was he fought for our country. He was at Normandy on D-Day. He died. He had friends who died for a cause. If he was here today, this would have been a sad day for him as well. We are seeing things that he told me about 3, 4, 5 years before he passed away. Whenever he said, you are going to witness this country turn into socialist, communist type mentality. And we've seen that tonight. And it hit me, man. I was sitting there watching on TV and I felt this clench in my chest that just, I'll be honest, man, it freaked me out. Mm-hmm. I said, is this America? Did we just witness our government passing into law something that's going to force something upon us that we don't necessarily need?
Dude, income taxes for the federal, obviously go to the federal government. That's not constitutional. Let's be honest. This is a big step, and so it was obvious, but they've been pushing us in this direction for years. Social Security was a big step in that direction. Bottom line is the government needs to be maintaining infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, things that encourage interstate commerce.
Yeah.
They need to be protecting our borders. And then, certain small administrative things. But beyond that, I mean, and relatively speaking, a very small fraction of what we're taxed goes for those things. The rest of it is just completely waste. Okay? We've got so many social programs. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. You will hear them time and time again say, we're going to cut the national deficit. They lie to you constantly and they try to mislead you. Don't be mistaken. The national deficit is completely different than the national debt. The national debt, that's in the trillions. That's a ridiculous, unthinkable number. That's what we owe China and the rest of the world. The national deficit, that's just our over budgeting year after year. And so when they say we're going to cut the deficit in half, what they're saying is we're going to try to spend a little bit less next year. Big deal. Figure out how much money we're bringing in taxes, and let's not spend any more than that.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, let's spend less than that, and let's start paying off the national debt. It's unbelievable, but our government has grown to this massive, colossal,
there's
huge, heartless machine. And now we're turning to them for our medical needs.
There's two things that I'd like to bring up real quick. One is what we saw today with abortion in that bill. That's the first thing I'd like to stay on topic about. And then secondly,
great job, Stupak.
Yeah, and then
stand by your.
He just lost his award. I heard earlier. Secondly, some comments that Nancy Pelosi made earlier today, and